What if the legendary lands from our oldest stories weren't just myths, but real places waiting to be uncovered? Imagine standing on the shores of an ancient city, once thought to exist only in the whispers of sailors and the pages of forgotten texts, now revealed by the slow, patient work of time. For centuries, historians and archaeologists have pieced together fragments of maps, artifacts, and oral traditions, debating whether these fabled realms were pure imagination or shadows of something tangible. And today, we're about to embark on a journey through 30 of the most astonishing candidates' places that blur the line between legend and reality. Think about the stories that have captivated us since childhood: Atlantis sinking beneath the waves, El Dorado glittering with gold, or the mystical Shambhala hidden in the Himalayas. These tales endure because they speak to something deep within us, a longing for discovery, for the thrill of the unknown. But what if they weren't just allegories or cautionary fables? What if they were inspired by real civilizations, lost to time but not entirely erased? From the sunken ruins that match Plato's descriptions of Atlantis to the Amazonian tribes whose traditions echo the legends of golden cities, the evidence is tantalizing. And it's not just about proving the stories true. It's about understanding how these myths shaped cultures, fueled expeditions, and even altered the course of history. This isn't just a catalogue of ancient mysteries, it's a detective story stretching across millennia. We'll follow the clues left behind anomalies in old maps, strange geological formations, and artifacts that defy explanation. Along the way, you'll meet the explorers who risked everything to find these places, the scholars who have dedicated their lives to decoding them, and the modern technologies that are rewriting what we thought we knew. So, if you've ever wondered whether there's truth behind the tales, or if you simply love the thrill of a good historical puzzle, you're in the right place. Let's dive into the shadows of legend and see what secrets they might reveal. The line between myth and reality is thinner than you think. Plato's account of Atlantis remains one of history's most tantalizing mysteries, a thriving, advanced civilization that vanished beneath the waves in a single catastrophic day and night. He described it as a utopian society brimming with grand architecture, sophisticated engineering, and immense naval power, all ruled by a confederation of kings. But its downfall came when its people grew arrogant, provoking the gods to sink their island into the depths. For over 2,000 years, scholars and adventurers have pored over Plato's words, searching for clues that might pinpoint where this lost city once stood. The most compelling theories place Atlantis in wildly different corners of the globe. Some argue it was inspired by the volcanic eruption that obliterated the Minoan settlement on Thera, modern-day Santorini, around 1600 BC. The sheer scale of that disaster, tsunamis, ash clouds, and entire cities buried, matches Plato's description eerily well. Others look to the Azores, where underwater geological formations suggest a sunken landmass that could have once housed a thriving culture. Then there's the more controversial idea that Antarctica, before it was frozen, might have been home to Atlantis, pointing to ancient maps that seem to depict the continent free of ice. What keeps the search alive isn't just the lure of discovery, but the way Atlantis has become a mirror for our own world. Its story warns of the dangers of hubris and environmental neglect, themes that resonate deeply today. Modern expeditions armed with sonar and submersibles continue to scan the ocean floor for any trace of massive ruins. Every so often, a new discovery like the Bimini Road or the strange structures off the coast of Spain reignites the debate. Whether Atlantis was real or symbolic, its legend endures because it speaks to something timeless, the fragility of even the greatest civilizations and the enduring human drive to uncover the secrets of our past. The legend of El Dorado began not as a city but as a man, a ritual so dazzling it warped into myth. Among the Muisca people of the Colombian highlands, newly crowned kings would coat their bodies in gold dust before plunging into Lake Guatavita, offerings of emeralds and golden figurines tossed into the waters around them. To the Spanish conquistadors, this ceremony twisted in the retelling, transforming from a sacred tradition into a fever dream of infinite wealth waiting to be plundered. By the time stories reached Gonzalo Pizarro's ears, El Dorado was no longer a ritual but a kingdom, a place where streets shimmered with gold and temples dripped with jewels. Pizarro's expedition into the Amazon in 1541 became a cautionary tale of obsession. Thousands of men, lured by promises of riches, vanished into the jungle's green hell. They ate their horses, then their leather saddles, and finally each other. Survivors spoke of cities that melted into mist, visions fueled by hunger and desperation. Yet the irony is profound. While the Spanish searched for a fantasy, they walked right over the real treasure. The Muisca's goldwork was some of the most sophisticated in the Americas. Their artifacts later dredged from Guatavita, proving the truth had been there all along, just not in the form they craved. Modern explorers still chase echoes of El Dorado, but with tools sharper than swords. Satellite imagery has revealed vast earthworks in the Amazon geometric patterns stretching for miles, suggesting complex societies once thrived where Europeans saw only wilderness. Some speculate these could be the ruins of the city of Ys, a metropolis described by missionary accounts, while others argue El Dorado was never a place at all, but a metaphor for the unattainable. Yet Lake Guatavita keeps yielding clues, golden offerings recovered from its depths, each one a whisper from the past. The real gold wasn't in a mythical city, but in the ingenuity of the people who crafted these treasures, and the stories that outlasted even the greed that sought to claim them. High in the frozen reaches of the Himalayas, hidden behind towering peaks and veils of swirling mist, Shambhala lingers as one of Buddhism's most profound mysteries. Unlike Atlantis or El Dorado, this kingdom wasn't a city of gold or a doomed empire. It was described as a sanctuary of enlightenment, a place where wisdom thrived untouched by the outside world's corruption. Ancient Tibetan texts, especially the Kalachakra Tantra, paint Shambhala as both a physical realm and a spiritual ideal, a land where rulers guided by sacred teachings preserved peace and knowledge for humanity's darkest hour. The prophecies say that when war and greed plunge the world into chaos, a future king of Shambhala will emerge to restore balance, a belief that's fueled fascination for centuries. The quest to find Shambhala became an obsession for some of history's most unlikely figures. Russian artist and mystic Nicholas Roerich spent years traversing the Himalayas in the 1920s, convinced the kingdom was real. His expeditions, funded by wealthy patrons and shadowed by geopolitical intrigue, blended spiritual reverence with a detective's determination. Roerich claimed to have seen strange lights in the mountains, heard whispers of hidden valleys, and even encountered monks who spoke of secret passages leading to the fabled realm. But the most bizarre twist came when Soviet intelligence took interest. In the chaos of the Russian Revolution, some Bolsheviks became fixated on Shambhala as a source of ancient power, sending agents to uncover its secrets, believing, absurdly, that it might hold the key to global domination. What makes Shambhala unique among mythical lands is its duality. To devout Buddhists, it's less a place on a map and more a state of being, a metaphor for inner peace attainable through meditation and ethical living. Yet the physical search persists, driven by tantalizing clues. Some scholars point to the ancient kingdom of Zhangzhung in western Tibet, a once thriving culture swallowed by time, as a possible inspiration. Others suggest the hidden valleys of Bhutan or Nepal, where isolated monasteries guard esoteric knowledge. Modern satellite technology has even revealed mysterious cave systems in the Himalayas, their depths still unexplored. Whether Shambhala exists as a tangible location or a spiritual compass, its legend endures because it speaks to a universal longing, for a refuge untouched by strife, where the best of humanity is preserved, waiting to guide us forward. Avalon shimmers at the edge of Arthurian legend like a half-remembered dream, an island of eternal mist, where golden apples grew and a wounded King Arthur was carried to heal after his final battle. Unlike other mythical lands, Avalon straddles the line between history and folklore with unusual intimacy. Medieval texts describe it as a place of supernatural healing, where Arthur's sword Excalibur was forged and where his body supposedly rests, waiting to return in Britain's hour of need. But what makes Avalon so fascinating isn't just its role in the Arthurian cycle. It's the way physical locations, particularly Glastonbury Tor in Somerset, have become tangled with the myth. The connection between Avalon and Glastonbury began in the 12th century, when monks at Glastonbury Abbey claimed to have discovered Arthur and Guinevere's bones buried beneath their chapel. They even produced a lead cross inscribed with their names, an artifact modern scholars suspect was a clever forgery to attract pilgrims and royal patronage. Yet the site's geography fuels the legend. Glastonbury Tor, rising abruptly from the flat Somerset levels, would have been surrounded by water during flood seasons, making it literally an island. Local folklore weaves in deeper layers. The Tor is said to be the entrance to the underworld realm of Gwyn ap Nudd, a Celtic king of the fairies, while the nearby chalice well ties into Grail lore with its rust-red waters, believed by some to carry traces of the Holy Grail's power. Apples are key to unraveling Avalon's origins. The name itself likely derives from the Celtic word aballo, meaning apple, and the island was described as a paradise of orchards, a motif with roots in pre-Christian Celtic mythology. The silver branch with golden apples appears in Irish tales like the Voyage of Bran, symbolizing passage to the otherworld. This wasn't mere fantasy. Apples held sacred significance in Celtic cultures, associated with immortality and wisdom. Even today, Glastonbury's landscape echoes this heritage. The ruins of its medieval abbey stand beside ancient apple trees, and the local wassail ceremony, a midwinter blessing of orchards, keeps the old traditions alive. Could Avalon have been a real place repurposed by legend? Some historians argue it was inspired by the Isle of Apples in Breton folklore, while others see it as a Christianized version of pagan afterlife myths. Modern archaeology complicates the picture further. Excavations around Glastonbury reveal evidence of Iron Age-like villages and Roman settlements, suggesting the area was a spiritual hub long before Arthur's name was ever spoken. Whether Avalon was a poetic metaphor, a lost island, or a hill crowned with mist, its power endures because it taps into something primal. The hope that heroes never truly die, and that somewhere just beyond sight, a land of renewal awaits. In the late 19th century, scientists stumbled upon a puzzle that seemed to defy logic. Fossils of lemurs, those wide-eyed primates native to Madagascar, were discovered thousands of miles away in India and even as far as Africa. How could these creatures have crossed vast oceans without leaving traces in between? To explain this anomaly, British zoologist Philip Sclater proposed a radical idea: a lost continent swallowed by the Indian Ocean, which he named Lemuria. This hypothetical landmass, he argued, once bridged the gaps between these distant lands, allowing lemurs to roam freely before catastrophe struck. The theory caught fire in an era hungry for grand narratives of Earth's hidden past, blending scientific curiosity with the romantic allure of vanished worlds. But Lemuria's journey didn't end with geology. Just as the scientific community began questioning its plausibility, the concept was seized upon by an unexpected group, the Theosophists. Helena Blavatsky, the charismatic founder of Theosophy, reimagined Lemuria as a spiritual homeland for her root races, an ancient civilization of towering, egg-laying beings with psychic powers. In her esoteric writings, Lemuria became a cosmic tragedy, a fallen paradise whose destruction paved the way for modern humanity. Blavatsky's version, though dismissed as fantastical by scholars, embedded itself in alternative spiritual movements, where it still thrives today as a symbol of lost wisdom and human origins shrouded in mystery. Modern geology, of course, has dismantled the original premise. Plate tectonics revealed how India's collision with Asia, not a sunken continent, explained the lemur fossil dispersal. Yet Lemuria's ghost lingers. In southern India, Tamil nationalists adopted the idea, claiming it as evidence of their ancient, sophisticated civilization predating recorded history. New Age communities in California speak of Lemurian crystals hidden beneath Mount Shasta, while conspiracy theorists weave it into tales of advanced prehistoric technologies. The irony is rich. A theory born to explain lemur fossils evolved into a mirror for humanity's deepest yearnings for connection, for identity, for a past grander than the one we know. Whether as scientific hypothesis or spiritual allegory, Lemuria endures because it asks a question we can't resist. What else might lie hidden beneath the waves of time? Far to the north, beyond the biting winds and frozen wastes, the ancient Greeks spoke of a land untouched by sorrow or strife, Hyperborea. This mythical realm, bathed in eternal sunlight, was said to be home to a race of giants who lived in perfect harmony, free from disease and old age. According to legend, Apollo himself would retreat there each winter, drawn by its golden tranquility. But what's fascinating isn't just the poetic beauty of the myth, it's how this imagined paradise collided with real-world exploration and twisted ideology. The Greeks weren't just spinning fairy tales. Their descriptions of Hyperborea, warm currents in icy seas, strange celestial phenomena, suggest they might have been weaving together whispers from Arctic travelers. Some scholars point to the Scythians, nomadic traders who brought stories of distant northern lands, as a possible source. Others argue the myth reflects encounters with Scandinavia's midnight sun or the geothermal wonders of Iceland, where steam rises from snow-covered ground like a glimpse of another world. Even the name Hyperborea hints at this blurry line between myth and geography. It literally means beyond the north wind, a phrase that could have described anything from the Baltic to lands unknown. But Hyperborea's legacy took a darker turn in the 20th century when Nazi occultists latched onto the myth with terrifying fervor. Figures like Heinrich Himmler became obsessed with the idea of Hyperborea as the ancestral homeland of the Aryan race, a pure, superior civilization lost to time. Expeditions were launched to Tibet and the Arctic, not to uncover history, but to fabricate it, searching for evidence of blonde-haired, blue-eyed Hyperboreans who never existed. The irony is staggering, a myth born from Greek reverence for balance and beauty twisted into a tool of hate. Modern archaeology offers a quieter but no less intriguing perspective. Recent discoveries in Siberia, like the 3,000-year-old Archaeum, reveal advanced Bronze Age cultures thriving in harsh climates, proof that reality could be as compelling as legend. Meanwhile, climate scientists study ancient Hyperborean lore for clues about prehistoric Arctic conditions, wondering if fragments of truth linger in those old stories. Whether as a poetic ideal, a Nazi delusion, or a puzzle for researchers, Hyperborea endures because it reflects our deepest impulses, to imagine a paradise just out of reach and to project our hopes and fears onto the blank spaces of the map. Long before Hyperborea captured imaginations, another northern mystery haunted the maps of antiquity. Thule. The Greek explorer Pytheas first mentioned this distant land in the 4th century BCE, claiming to have sailed beyond Britain to a place where the sun barely set in summer and the sea congealed into a slushy mass he called the lung of the ocean. His account, recorded in fragments by later historians, described a fertile island where people harvested wild grain and stored it in vast barns, living in harmony with a climate harsher than anything Mediterranean audiences could fathom. But pinpointing Thule's true location became a riddle that would echo through centuries, twisting from scientific curiosity into something far darker. Pythia's voyage itself was a marvel of ancient navigation. Sailing from the Greek colony of Massalia, modern-day Marseille, he likely followed tin trade routes to Cornwall before venturing northward. Some scholars argue his Thule was Iceland, citing his descriptions of midnight sun and volcanic activity that match the island's geothermal vents. Others propose Norway's coastline, where the midnight sun phenomenon occurs, or even the Shetland Islands, where Iron Age grain storage pits have been unearthed. The Roman geographer Strabo scoffed at Pythia's claims, calling him a liar, but the mystery only deepened. Medieval mapmakers placed Thule at the edge of the known world, often labeling it alongside sea monsters and whirlpools, while Nordic sagas later wove it into their own myths as a land of giants and hidden knowledge. The Nazis, however, warped Thule's legacy beyond recognition. In the chaos of post-World War I Germany, the Thule Society, a secretive group obsessed with occultism and racial purity, adopted the name, believing it to be the ancestral homeland of the Aryan race. Their twisted ideology blended Norse mythology with pseudoscience, imagining Thule as a lost Arctic civilization of superhumans whose bloodline they sought to restore. This grotesque fantasy fueled expeditions to Scandinavia and even influenced Himmler's SS, who combed Icelandic sagas for clues to their fabricated past. The irony is chilling. A place once celebrated for its simplicity and natural abundance became a symbol of hateful fabrication. Modern researchers approach Thule with sharper tools and clearer eyes. Climate historians note that Pythia's lung of the ocean might describe sea ice, a rare sight in the North Atlantic during the warmer centuries of classical antiquity, but not impossible. Archaeologists studying Norse settlements in Iceland and Greenland uncover parallels to his accounts, like communal grain storage pits that mirror his descriptions. Even the name Thule lingers today. Greenland's northernmost U.S. airbase bears the title, a quiet nod to humanity's endless fascination with the edge of the world. Whether Iceland, Norway, or a sailor's tall tale, Thule's power lies in its elusiveness, a reminder that the most enduring legends often dwell in the spaces between what we know and what we dare to imagine. Off the rugged coast of Brittany, where the Atlantic gnaws at the jagged cliffs, whispers linger of a city lost beneath the waves. Ys. The legend tells of a place so splendid, its towers gleamed like polished ivory, its streets paved with gold, protected from the hungry sea by a massive floodgate whose key was kept by the king himself. But his daughter, Princess Dahat, was said to be as reckless as the ocean, hosting wild feasts where masked lovers vanished by dawn. In one fateful version of the tale, she gave the key to a mysterious knight, some say the devil himself, who flung open the gates, letting the sea rush in to drown the city's sins. The bell of Ys Cathedral still rings beneath the waves, locals claim, a mournful echo warning of pride's price. What makes Ys more than just a cautionary fable are the eerie physical clues dotting the Bay of Douarnenez. Fishermen have long dragged up odd stones too smooth to be natural, while divers report strange geometric shapes lurking under the silt. In the 1920s, archaeologists uncovered remnants of ancient roads and what appeared to be a submerged Roman-era settlement near the bay's shores. Even more compelling are the peat beds found offshore, layers of preserved vegetation that suggest this area was once dry land, swallowed by rising seas around 1500 years ago. The timing aligns uncannily with Breton lore, which places Ys' fall in the 5th or 6th century, just as coastal Europe faced fierce storms and shifting shorelines. The legend's roots may stretch even deeper. Some scholars spot parallels between Dahat and the Celtic goddess Oz, a figure linked to both fertility and destruction. Others note that Ys' flood myth echoes older Near Eastern stories, carried westward by traders or pilgrims, but the most haunting connection lies in Brittany's own geography. The bay's name, Douarnenez, may derive from dour water and an Enez, the island, linguistic breadcrumbs pointing to a forgotten truth. During exceptionally low tides, locals swear they've glimpsed the outline of walls beneath the waves, though the sea always reclaims them before proof can be gathered. Modern technology keeps the mystery alive. Sonar scans have mapped anomalies on the bay's floor, rectangular shapes too precise for nature, though silt and currents make confirmation difficult. Meanwhile, folklorists trace how Ys evolved in the telling. From medieval sermon fodder about vice to a Romantic-era symbol of Brittany's cultural resistance against France. Today, the city's ghost haunts everything from operas to video games, a testament to its grip on the imagination. Whether Ys was a real city erased by climate change or a poetic warning etched into the land itself, its power endures in the space where waves meet myth, reminding us that every shore hides stories if we're willing to listen. Beneath the towering peaks of the Himalayas, hidden beyond the reach of ordinary maps, lies one of history's most persistent legends, Agartha, a sprawling subterranean kingdom said to pulse with advanced civilizations and lost wisdom. Unlike Shambhala's celestial ideals, Agartha's mythos is rooted in the literal bowels of the earth, a labyrinth of tunnels and cities illuminated by an inner sun, where ancient masters guard secrets of forgotten technologies. The concept of a hollow earth isn't new. Edmund Halley of comet fame proposed it in the 17th century to explain magnetic anomalies. But by the 19th century, occultists like Alexander St. Yves d'Alveder transformed the idea into something grander, an underground utopia ruled by enlightened beings who'd fled surface world corruption. The Nazis, ever eager to twist mysticism into ideology, became obsessed with Agartha. Heinrich Himmler's Onanab, a pseudo-scientific research wing of the SS, funded expeditions to Tibet in the 1930s, convinced that the Himalayas held entrances to this subterranean realm. They scoured monasteries for maps, interrogated monks about hidden valleys, and even searched for the mythical city of Shambhala, believing it might connect to Agartha's tunnels. Their desperation to prove Aryan supremacy led to absurd theories like Agartha's inhabitants being blonde, blue-eyed descendants of Hyperboreans who'd retreated underground to preserve their purity. The irony: Tibetan texts describe Agartha's dwellers as pacifist sages, the antithesis of Nazi brutality. Then there's Admiral Richard Bayard, the American explorer whose alleged 1947 flight over the North Pole became a cornerstone of Hollow Earth conspiracy. According to fringe theorists, Bayard's secret diary, disputed by mainstream historians, describes flying into a warm, green land beyond the ice, where mammoths still roamed, and advanced civilization warned him about surface dwellers' destructive ways. Official records show Bayard was mapping Arctic weather patterns, but the myth persists, fueled by Cold War paranoia, and later repurposed by UFO enthusiasts who claim Agartha's inhabitants are extraterrestrial. Modern science, of course, dismisses hollow Earth theories outright. Seismic waves reveal our planet's layered interior, not gaping caverns, yet the allure lingers. Some scholars argue Agartha's legend might encode real geological wonders, like massive cave systems or underground rivers still being discovered today. Others see it as a metaphor for humanity's subconscious, a collective yearning for hidden knowledge, for a refuge from our own destruction. Whether as Nazi delusion, explorer's tall tale, or spiritual allegory, Agartha endures because it mirrors our deepest questions. What lies beneath the surface of the world and of ourselves? Deep in the heart of the Libyan desert, where the sands stretch endlessly and the sun bleaches the sky white, there whispers a legend of a lost oasis, Zerzura, the oasis of little birds. Bedouin storytellers spoke of a hidden city, its walls white as bone, its gates guarded by statues of birds, where cool waters flowed despite the surrounding desolation. Some versions of the tale described it as a refuge for outcasts, others as a place of cursed treasure, but all agreed on one thing: those who found Zerzura rarely returned the same. By the early 20th century, this phantom oasis had become the obsession of European explorers, who saw in its myth not just adventure, but the chance to fill in one of the last blank spaces on the map. No one pursued Zerzura with more determination than Ralph Bagnold, the British military officer and desert explorer whose expeditions in the 1930s rewrote what was known about the Libyan desert. Armed with early desert vehicles and an unparalleled understanding of dune physics knowledge that would later prove vital in World War II's North African campaigns, Bagnold crisscrossed the wasteland, chasing shadows in the sand. His team's discoveries in the Gilf Kebir region, a vast plateau of rock and hidden valleys, came tantalizingly close to matching Zerzura's descriptions. They found prehistoric cave paintings, evidence of ancient rivers, and even traces of human habitation in places the modern world had forgotten. Yet the white city itself remained out of reach, slipping through their fingers like the desert wind. What makes Zerzura so compelling isn't just the mystery of its existence, but how the legend intertwines with the harsh reality of the landscape. The Gilf Kebir, a sprawling massif the size of Switzerland, is a geological time capsule. Its cliffs hold caves adorned with Neolithic artwork, giraffes, hunters, and creatures long vanished from the region, proof that this was once a green and thriving land. Some scholars argue that Zerzura's myth preserves a folk memory of this lost wet period, when oases dotted what is now an unbroken sea of sand. Others suggest the oasis was real but transient, a temporary haven formed by shifting aquifers, its location forgotten as the waters retreated. Bagnold himself came to believe Zerzura was less a place than an idea, a symbol of the desert's cruel allure, promising salvation even as it led men to their doom. His meticulous maps and journals, filled with observations of mirages and optical illusions, hint at how easily the desert could deceive, yet the search didn't end with him. In 2005, an Egyptian explorer claimed to find remnants of a walled settlement in the Gilf Kebir, sparking renewed debate. Satellite imagery has since revealed fossilized riverbeds snaking beneath the dunes, lending weight to theories that Zerzura, or something like it, might have existed before the sands claimed it. Whether as a mirage or a mirage made real, Zerzura endures because it embodies the desert's duality, its capacity to both sustain and destroy. For the Bedouin, it was a cautionary tale about greed and the fragility of life in an unforgiving land. For explorers like Bagnold, it was a siren call, proof that even in an age of satellites, some secrets still lie buried beneath the shifting sands, waiting for the right hand to uncover them. Brigadoon paints one of folklore's most enchanting yet bittersweet pictures, a Scottish village that awakens from slumber for just one day every 100 years, its residents untouched by time, their lives frozen in perpetual 18th century simplicity. The tale, immortalized in the 1947 Broadway musical and subsequent adaptations, speaks to something universal: the longing for a place uncorrupted by modernity, where love and community exist in pure, unchanging harmony. But what's striking about Brigadoon isn't just its whimsy, it's the way this fictional village mirrors real-world stories of Scottish settlements swallowed by history, their ruins lingering like ghosts in the highlands. Take Runrig, for example. Nestled in the Isle of Skye's rugged landscape, this abandoned township isn't a product of magic but of the brutal highland clearances of the 18th and 19th centuries. Landowners, eager to replace small tenant farms with more profitable sheep pastures, evicted entire communities, burning cottages, scattering families, and erasing generations of livelihood in a single stroke. Today, Runrig's crumbling stone walls and overgrown foundations stand as silent witnesses to this trauma. The contrast is poignant. Where Brigadoon's vanishing is framed as a romantic escape from time, Runrig's disappearance was an act of violence, its people not preserved but displaced. Yet tourism has blurred these lines between myth and memory. In the highland village of Pitlochry, the fictional Brigadoon is resurrected daily for visitors. Gift shops sell tartan-clad souvenirs, while guided tours lead wide-eyed travelers through landscapes inspired by the legend. It's a curious alchemy taking a story about resisting commercialization and commodifying it. Meanwhile, the real ruins of Runrig and other cleared settlements draw a different crowd. History buffs and descendants tracing their roots, seeking not fantasy but fragments of truth beneath the heather. The tension here is fascinating. Brigadoon's myth thrives because it offers comfort, a world where time's ravages are suspended. But the real vanishing villages force us to confront harder truths about progress's cost. Perhaps that's why both endure, one as a balm for modernity's wounds, the other as a reminder of what was lost to its march. Whether through song or stone, these stories whisper the same question: how do we hold onto the past without being trapped by it? In the grinding poverty of medieval Europe, where hunger was a constant shadow and labor never ceased, peasants dreamed of a place where work was obsolete and abundance flowed freely, Kokani. This mythical land, first appearing in manuscripts from the 13th century, was the antithesis of feudal struggle. Roasted pigs wandered with knives stuck in their backs for easy carving, houses were built of cake, and rivers ran not with water but wine. It was satire with teeth, a deliciously absurd critique of the social order that kept the poor forever toiling while nobles feasted. But Kokani wasn't just a fairy tale, it was a dangerous fantasy. When rebellions like the Peasants' Revolt of 1381 erupted across England, leaders invoked visions of a world where all things should be common, echoing Kokani's subversive promise. Across the Channel, the Dutch had their own version, Lubberland, where laziness was virtue and food rained from the sky. German variants like Schlaraffenland added mountains of pudding and self-serving geese that flew straight into open mouth. What united these utopias was their razor-sharp commentary on scarcity. In an era when crop failures could mean starvation, imagining a land where fish jumped onto shores already fried wasn't just whimsy, it was survival psychology. Folklore scholars note how these tales often featured characters who reached Kokani by tunneling through gruel, a metaphor for the sheer impossibility of escaping systemic poverty. Yet there's a fascinating twist. While European peasants fantasized about endless food, other cultures dreamed differently. Chinese legends spoke of Pinglai, an island paradise where immortality, not indulgence, was the prize. Polynesian myth celebrated Hawaii, an ancestral homeland rich in spiritual, not material abundance. This contrast reveals how utopias mirror a society's deepest lacks. For medieval Europeans trapped in backbreaking labor, the dream was visceral, full bellies and idle hands. The Church, ever wary of challenges to its authority, reframed Kokani as a cautionary tale. By the 15th century, sermons warned that such gluttony would lead sinners straight to hell, a clever co-opting of peasant dreams to reinforce moral control. But the idea proved too potent to suppress. Even today, traces linger in modern land of plenty tropes, from Willy Wonka's edible garden to political slogans promising prosperity. Kokani endures because it speaks to a timeless truth. When inequality festers, the oppressed will always imagine a world turned upside down, where the rivers run with wine and the hardest choice is which pastry to eat first. West of Ireland, where the Atlantic's grey waves clash against Europe's edge, maps once marked an island that shouldn't exist, Hy-Brasil. Unlike other mythical lands, this one wasn't just the stuff of sailors' tales. It appeared with eerie consistency on nautical charts from the 1400s well into the 1800s, always in the same patch of ocean, always just out of reach. Cartographers drew it as a perfect circle split by a river, often labeling it with tantalizing notes, Isle of the Blessed or the Phantom Isle. Even Christopher Columbus took note, scribbling references to it in his logs alongside real Atlantic islands. But what makes Hy-Brasil so haunting isn't just its persistence on parchment. It's the way modern technology has reignited the debate over whether there's something, anything, beneath those stormy waters. Legends whispered that Hy-Brasil materialized only once every 7 years, shrouded in mist except for a single enchanted day. Irish folklore described it as a paradise where an advanced race lived under the rule of a sorcerer king, their civilization untouched by time. Some accounts claimed the island pulsed with strange energy, its soil glowing at night, details that, in hindsight, sound suspiciously like misinterpretations of natural phenomena. Bioluminescent algae, volcanic activity, or pure fabrication, the truth gets murkier when you consider the explorers who swore they'd found it. In 1474, a Portuguese sailing crew reported landing on Hy-Brasil, only to watch it vanish as suddenly as it appeared. 2 centuries later, Scottish sea captain John Nisbet insisted his ship spent hours anchored off its shores, where his men met wise inhabitants who gifted them gold. Then there's the sonar. In 1972, a British survey vessel scanning the Porcupine Bank, a shallow seabed plateau west of Ireland, detected a massive, dome-like structure rising abruptly from the ocean floor. The readings suggested something artificial, or at least geologically improbable. Conspiracy theorists pounced, arguing this could be Hy-Brasil's drowned remnants. Skeptics countered that the dome was likely a basalt formation or a glitch in early sonar tech. But the intrigue deepened in 2012 when modern scans revealed a series of geometric ridges nearby, their right angles too precise to dismiss as mere quirks of nature. Marine archaeologists remain divided. Could these be Neolithic ruins submerged by rising seas, or just the ocean playing tricks? The most compelling theory ties Hy-Brasil to a real-world tragedy, the gradual drowning of Doggerland, a vast Mesolithic landmass that once connected Britain to mainland Europe. As glaciers melted and seas rose, countless islands vanished beneath the waves, their existence preserved only in folk memory. Hy-Brasil might be a distorted echo of one such loss, its circular shape mirroring the Cranog's artificial islands built by Ireland's ancient inhabitants. Or perhaps it was always a mirage, a collective hallucination fueled by fog, fatigue, and the human need to fill blank spaces with wonder. Today, Hy-Brasil lingers in the cracks between science and story. Satellite imagery has mapped the Atlantic's depths with pixel-perfect precision, leaving no room for phantom islands, yet fishermen still report odd disturbances in the water where charts once placed it. Writers and musicians keep the myth alive, from Neil Gaiman's American Gods to Irish folk ballads warning sailors not to chase what the sea chooses to hide. Whether as a cautionary tale or a glitch in history's map, Hy-Brasil endures because it taps into our oldest fear and fascination, that the world still holds secrets and some places exist only when we're not looking straight at them. James Hilton's Lost Horizon introduced the world to Shangri-La in 1933, a hidden Himalayan utopia where time slowed, wisdom flourished, and no one grew old. But long before Hilton put pen to paper, Tibetan Buddhists spoke of Baal, secret valleys concealed by magic and geography, accessible only to those pure of heart. These sacred refuges, described in ancient texts like the Terma, weren't just physical locations, they were spiritual safe houses designed to preserve teachings during times of chaos. When Hilton's novel became a global sensation, it crystallized an idea that had pulsed through Himalayan cultures for centuries, that somewhere beyond the snow peaks lay a sanctuary from the world's suffering. The real-world hunt for Shangri-La took explorers to some of Earth's most remote corners. Bhutan's Paro Valley, with its cliffside monasteries like Taksang Palphog, the tiger's nest, fits the archetype perfectly. Perched on a sheer rock face 2,000 feet above the valley floor, this 17th-century temple complex seems almost suspended in mist, a place where the air itself feels thin with mystery. Locals believe Guru Rinpoche, the saint who brought Buddhism to Bhutan, flew here on the back of a tigress, meditating in caves now woven into the monastery's foundations. Modern visitors describe an uncanny tranquility in Paro, as if the valley exists slightly outside of time, but the Bhutanese government deliberately limits tourism to preserve its sacredness. Meanwhile, in China's Yunnan province, the town of Zhongdian officially renamed itself Shangri-La in 2001, capitalizing on Hilton's legend. Nestled at 10,000 feet amid jagged peaks and turquoise lakes, it's easy to see why. The region's Tibetan communities have long revered this area as a baal, with prayer flags fluttering over meadows bursting with wildflowers in summer. Yet the commercialization raises thorny questions. Can a place remain spiritually potent when it's marketed as a tourist destination? Nearby, the untouched valleys of the Mekong and Salween River gorges offer a quieter truth, villages where monasteries still store ancient manuscripts and elders speak of hidden passes known only to pilgrims. What makes the Baal tradition so profound is its elasticity. For some, these valleys are literal coordinates on a map. For others, they exist only when needed. During China's Cultural Revolution, Tibetan monks smuggled sacred texts into remote canyons, treating the landscape itself as a living library. Today, climate change adds urgency to the myth. Glaciers that once concealed valleys are melting, revealing caves and pathways sealed for millennia. Scientists studying these shifts sometimes stumble upon ruins or artifacts, blurring the line between geology and legend. Shangri-La endures because it answers a need deeper than wanderlust. In a world of relentless noise and haste, the idea that serenity might still exist, whether in Paro's prayer wheels, Zhongdian's peaks, or the pages of a novel, offers a hope as ancient as the mountains themselves. The real magic isn't in finding these places, but in believing they might find us when we need them most. Off the coast of Cornwall, where the sea gnaws at the jagged cliffs, lies the ghost of a kingdom, Lyons or Lyonesse, a land of Arthurian legend said to have vanished beneath the waves in a single catastrophic storm. Unlike Avalon, shrouded in mist and mystery, Lyonesse feels startlingly tangible. Medieval chroniclers described it as a fertile realm with 140 churches, home to noble knights and tragic lovers, swallowed by the sea as punishment for its people's sins. But what chills the spine isn't the fantasy, it's the uncanny overlap between folklore and geology. Fishermen near the Isles of Scilly still tell of hearing church bells tolling underwater when storms roll in, a haunting echo of the drowned parishes. The Tristan and Isolde legend binds Lyonesse to human drama. In the tale, Tristan, Knight of Lyonesse, escorts the Irish Princess Isolde across the sea to marry his uncle, King Mark of Cornwall. A fateful love potion entwines the couple in a forbidden romance, their passion mirroring the land's own doomed fate. Some scholars argue the story preserves a cultural memory of Lyonesse's destruction, with Tristan's grief-stricken voyages symbolizing exile from a lost homeland. The geography fits. The Scilly Isles, now a scattering of tiny rocks, were once a single large island connected to Cornwall by a low-lying plain. Medieval maps labeled this area Lethauso, an old Cornish term that likely morphed into Lyonesse over time. Marine archaeologists have found unsettling evidence beneath these waters. In 2009, divers investigating a shipwreck near the Scillies stumbled upon a rectangular structure of stacked stones, too precise to be natural. Sonar scans later revealed what appeared to be field boundaries and hut circles under 30 feet of water, suggesting human habitation when sea levels were lower. Even more compelling are the fossilized oak forests occasionally exposed by storms off Cornwall's coast, their blackened stumps dating back 4,000 years. These drowned woodlands align with climate data showing a rapid sea level rise around 1500 BCE, an event that could have inspired Lyonesse's cataclysmic flood legends. Yet Lyonesse's power lies in its duality. To Cornish poets like Alfred Lord Tennyson, it symbolized a lost golden age, its fate a warning about nature's vengeance. To historians, it's a puzzle of submerged settlements and shifted shorelines, and to locals, it's woven into daily life. The very name, Seven Stones Reef, a treacherous shoal near the Scillies, is said to derive from the 7 church steeples of Lyonesse that still snag fishermen's nets. Whether as poetic metaphor or sunken reality, Lyonesse endures because it captures a universal truth: the sea giveth and the sea taketh away, leaving only stories bubbling up through the waves. In 1541, Spanish conquistador Francisco Vázquez de Coronado marched into the Great Plains, his armor gleaming under the relentless sun, convinced he was just days away from a city of unimaginable riches, Quivira. His guide, a captured Pawnee man the Spaniards called El Turco, had spun tales of golden rooftops and lords who napped beneath trees hung with tinkling metal bells. But when Coronado finally reached this fabled land after months of brutal travel, he found something utterly different: a cluster of thatch-roofed Wichita villages, their wealth measured not in gold but in crops, pottery, and intricate beadwork. The disillusioned explorer reportedly had El Turco executed for deception, but the real betrayal lay in the chasm between European greed and indigenous reality. What Coronado dismissed as a poor settlement was, in truth, a thriving hub of trade and agriculture. The Wichita people, skilled farmers and artisans, cultivated vast fields of maize, beans, and squash along the Arkansas River, riches far more vital than the Spaniards realized. Their copper ornaments and seashell beads, sourced through trade networks spanning hundreds of miles, spoke of sophisticated commerce, not primitive existence. Yet because these treasures didn't match European fantasies of gilded cities, Coronado's chroniclers branded Quivira a failure. This cultural myopia wasn't just ignorance, it was a deliberate erasure. By reducing Native American prosperity to a lack of gold, colonists justified further conquest, framing indigenous societies as needing civilizing. The Quivira myth didn't die with Coronado. Over centuries, its shape shifted to fit new agendas. Spanish maps labeled the Great Plains Tierra de Quivira, luring more fortune seekers into the void. In the 1800s, American settlers invoked the legend to romanticize the West as a land of hidden wealth, even as they displaced the very tribes whose ancestors had met Coronado. Today, the name lingers in Kansas geography: Quivira National Wildlife Refuge, a wetland oasis ironically rich in the natural abundance the Wichita revered. Archaeology now peels back the layers of this distortion. At sites like Etzanoa in Kansas, researchers have uncovered remnants of a sprawling Wichita settlement that may have housed 20,000 people, evidence of the gold Coronado missed. Trade goods from the Gulf Coast and Great Lakes testify to Quivira's real wealth, not hoarded metal but connections. The tragedy isn't that El Turco lied, but that generations refused to see the truth. What glittered in the sun wasn't the false gold of European daydreams, but the enduring legacy of a people who built civilizations where others saw only empty land. In the 6th century, when most of Europe was still shrouded in the shadow of the Dark Ages, an Irish monk named Brendan set sail into the unknown on a quest that would become the stuff of legend. His journey, chronicled in the medieval text Navigatio Sancti Brendani Abbotis, describes a 7-year odyssey across the Atlantic, a voyage filled with encounters that blur the line between faith and folklore. Brendan and his crew supposedly landed on an island that turned out to be a sleeping whale, celebrated mass on the back of a giant sea monster, and even glimpsed a crystal pillar floating in the ocean, which some modern scholars speculate could have been an iceberg. But the most tantalizing mystery of all is the promised land Brendan finally reached, a lush, mist-covered island he called the Land of Promise of the Saints, a paradise where time seemed to stand still. The Navigatio isn't just a religious allegory, it's packed with startlingly precise details that suggest real-world inspiration. Brendan's descriptions of volcanic activity, with islands spouting fire and smoke, align eerily with the geology of the Azores. Then there's the coagulated sea, a phrase that could describe the dense seaweed mats of the Sargasso Sea, which sailors later feared as a maritime graveyard. Even the Island of Smiths, where Brendan's monks heard the clanging of hammers, matches accounts of early Norse encounters with indigenous metalworkers in North America. These clues have led historians to debate whether the Irish, centuries before the Vikings, might have crossed the Atlantic. The case for Brendan's Island as a real place gained traction in the 1970s when explorer Tim Severin recreated the voyage using a traditional Irish currach, a boat stitched together with leather hides. Sailing from Ireland to Newfoundland via the Faroe Islands and Iceland, Severin proved that Brendan's route was technically feasible with 6th century technology. Along the way, he encountered many of the phenomena described in the Navigatio, from breaching whales mistaken for sea monsters to the surreal glow of bioluminescent plankton that could explain Brendan's flaming waters. Yet the biggest revelation came when Severin reached Newfoundland's fog-shrouded coast, where the topography matched the Navigatio's descriptions of a fertile land rich with grapes, a detail that would have meant little to Irish monks who had no concept of North America's native vine. But the skeptics raise compelling counterpoints. The Azores, while geographically plausible, show no archaeological evidence of pre-Portuguese settlement. And while the Navigatio's descriptions of volcanic activity fit Iceland, Brendan's timeline doesn't align with known eruptions. Some argue the text is purely symbolic, a Christianized version of Celtic otherworld myths like Tyr na and Olga, a land of eternal youth accessible only to the worthy. The land of promise in this reading isn't a physical place but a spiritual destination, a metaphor for the soul's journey toward salvation, yet the legend refuses to fade. Medieval maps, including the controversial Vinland map, often included St. Brendan's Isle west of Ireland, sometimes conflated with the mythical Hy-Brasil. As late as the 1700s, sailors reported sightings of the island, only for it to vanish like a mirage. Modern oceanography offers a tantalizing explanation. Underwater surveys have revealed submerged terraces near the Azores that would have been islands during Brendan's era before rising sea levels reclaimed them. Could one of these have been his final landing place? Whether as historical record or allegory, the story of St. Brendan's Island endures because it captures the essence of exploration, the collision of faith and curiosity, the human drive to push beyond the horizon. In an age when maps still bore the warning, "Here be dragons," Brendan's voyage reminds us that every myth might hold a kernel of truth, waiting for the right moment to surface. In the late 1800s, as scholars were just beginning to crack the mysteries of Mesoamerican civilizations, a flamboyant French archaeologist named Augustus Le Plongeon made a startling claim buried within ancient Mayan texts was evidence of a lost Pacific continent called Mu, a sophisticated civilization that predated even Atlantis. Le Plongeon, who had spent years photographing Mayan ruins in Yucatan, became convinced that the Trono Codex, a fragile bark paper manuscript, contained descriptions of this sunken realm. His translations, though later discredited, painted Mu as a land of towering cities and advanced technology, destroyed in a cataclysmic earthquake that sent it plummeting beneath the waves. The idea caught fire in an era obsessed with lost worlds, blending colonial fascination with indigenous cultures and a Western hunger for origins more glamorous than their own. Le Plongeon's theories were equal parts imagination and misinterpretation. He believed the Mayan glyphs told the story of Queen Mu, a royal exile from Mu who supposedly fled to Egypt, founding its civilization and inspiring the Sphinx. Never mind that actual Mayan epigraphers would later prove the Trono Codex dealt with astrology, not drowned continents. Le Plongeon's narrative had a romantic appeal that facts couldn't shake. His work became a cornerstone of alternative archaeology, inspiring figures like James Churchward, whose 1926 book The Lost Continent of Mu spun the legend into a global phenomenon. Churchward claimed to have learned of Mu from secret tablets in India, describing it as an Eden-like paradise stretching from Hawaii to Easter Island, home to 64 million people before its destruction 50,000 years ago. Modern geology, of course, dismantles these fantasies. Plate tectonics confirms no continent-sized landmass existed in the Pacific within human history. The region's islands are volcanic or coral formations, not mountaintops of a sunken world. Even so, Mu persists in New Age circles, often conflated with Lemuria or tied to conspiracy theories about advanced prehistoric technologies. Some point to underwater ruins near Yonaguni, Japan, claimed by a few researchers to be man-made, though most geologists argue they're natural sandstone formations. Others cite Nan Madol, Micronesia's eerie basalt city built on a coral reef, as evidence of Mu's legacy, ignoring its well-documented construction around 1180 CE. What makes Mu fascinating isn't its reality, but its resilience as a mirror for human longing. In the Pacific, where oral traditions do speak of lands lost to rising seas, like Samoa's submerged Pulatu or Hawaii's gone kingdom of Kahiki, Mu's myth taps into real cultural memories of displacement. Yet it also reflects a colonial impulse to slot indigenous histories into Western frameworks, stripping them of nuance. Today, as rising oceans threaten low-lying islands, Mu's legend takes on new poignancy, a warning that the next lost continent might not be a myth but a casualty of our own making. Arcadia lives in the Western imagination as a sun-dappled dream, a land of shepherds playing flutes by crystal streams where nymphs dance in groves untouched by time. The Greeks first conjured this pastoral paradise in poetry and song, envisioning it as a mountainous refuge from the politics and plagues of city life. But the real Arcadia, nestled in the rugged heart of the Peloponnese, was far from the carefree utopia later artists would depict. Its rocky slopes and harsh winters demanded resilience, yet the contrast between myth and reality only deepens its allure. How did a region of farmers and goat herders become synonymous with eternal serenity? The answer lies in the human longing to believe there's still one place where life unfolds as it was meant to, simple, harmonious, and unspoiled. The ancient Greek poets were the first to romanticize Arcadia, but their vision wasn't entirely fiction. Hesiod's works and days painted it as a land of golden age purity, while Virgil's eclogues transformed it into a literary symbol of rural bliss. Yet these idols glossed over the region's realities: wolves prowling the high pastures, droughts withering crops, and the constant toil of agrarian life. The disconnect reveals something profound about how myths evolve. They're less about documenting a place than preserving an ideal. By the Renaissance, painters like Nicholas Poussin immortalized Arcadia as an allegory. His famous Et in Arcadia Ego showing shepherds puzzling over a tomb's inscription, a memento mori whispering that even paradise isn't free from time's reach. Modern travelers to Arcadia might feel a jolt of recognition wandering the same landscapes that inspired these legends. The region's stone villages cling to hillsides, their cobbled streets echoing with goat bells, while ancient plane trees shade the same springs where Pan, the half-goat god of wild places, was said to rest. At the ruins of Bassi, the temple of Apollo Epicurios stands in lonely grandeur, its limestone columns framing views of valleys that seem plucked from a lyric poem. Local shepherds still lead flocks along age-old trails, though few pause to recite verse. Their lives are a quiet rebuttal to the myth, proving that Arcadia's true magic lies in endurance, not escapism. What makes Arcadia's legacy so enduring is its adaptability. For 18th century English aristocrats, it became a template for manicured garden landscapes like Storehead, where every grove and pond was engineered to mimic Virgil's verses. Spanish explorers, meanwhile, grafted the name onto California's wilderness, christening mountain ranges and valleys with borrowed poetry. Even today, Arcadian describes anything untouched by modernity, a testament to how thoroughly the idea has infiltrated our collective yearning. The real Arcadia endures not as a lost paradise but as a mirror, sometimes showing us what we've forgotten, other times reflecting what we've never truly had. Deep in the steamy embrace of the Peruvian Amazon, where vines strangle ancient trees and mist clings to the canopy like breath, the legend of Paititi whispers through the leaves, a final stronghold of the Inca, untouched by Spanish hands. While the conquerors ransacked Cusco in the 1530s, stories spread of a retreating faction hauling their empire's remaining gold into the jungle, vanishing into a city so hidden even the trees seemed to guard its secret. For centuries, explorers hacked through snake-infested undergrowth, lured by tales of temples roofed with gold, only to emerge feverish and empty-handed. But in the past decade, something extraordinary has shifted. Satellite eyes piercing the green veil have spotted anomalies near Peru's border with Brazil, rectangular shapes too precise for nature, terraces climbing ridges where no modern roads lead. Could these ghostly outlines be Paititi at last, or is the jungle spinning another mirage? The legend's roots dig deep into Incan resistance. After the fall of Vilcabamba in 1572, the last rebel emperor Tupac Amaru was dragged to Cusco and executed, but whispers endured of a surviving enclave deeper in the Montaña. Spanish chroniclers wrote of captured indigenous guides who spoke of a great city where the Incas still rule, its streets paved not with gold but with something more precious: freedom. Unlike El Dorado's glittering fantasies, Paititi was framed as a living refuge, a place where traditions thrived beyond colonial reach. This wasn't just a treasure hunt, it was a search for the unconquered soul of a civilization. Modern technology has turned the search into a high-stakes detective story. In 2008, French explorer Thierry Jamin announced he'd found a colossal geometric formation near the Rio Pantera, dubbing it the Square of the Incas. LiDAR scans laser imaging that strips away vegetation, later revealed sprawling terrace systems and what appeared to be ceremonial platforms in the same region. Even more compelling are the petroglyphs found near the Lemuria River, carvings of serpents and celestial symbols that match motifs from the Inca's sacred valley, suggesting a deliberate trail of cultural breadcrumbs. Skeptics argue these could be from pre-Incan cultures or natural formations, but one detail chills the spine. Local Matsuyunka tribespeople describe ruins they call the place where the gods ate, a phrase eerily close to Quechuan legends of Paititi as a divine feasting ground. The stakes of discovery aren't just archaeological, they're emotional. For Peru's indigenous communities, Paititi represents resilience, a symbol that their ancestors never fully surrendered. Satellite maps won't settle the debate alone. Boots on the ground must brave jaguars, narco-traffickers, and landslides to confirm what pixels suggest. Yet every expedition inches closer to rewriting history, not as a tale of extinction but of endurance. Whether Paititi was a city, a network of hideouts, or a myth spun to torment conquerors, its power endures in the unresolved tension between what the jungle hides and what we dare to believe. Slavic sailors whispered of an island that refused to stay still, Buyan, a land that rose from the Baltic's grey waves only to vanish again, its shores shifting with the tides like a mirage. In folk tales passed down through generations, this elusive place was ruled by the wizard Chernoma, a bearded sorcerer who could summon storms with a flick of his enchanted staff and imprison winds in knotted sacks. His palace stood atop golden pillars, guarded by talking beasts and trees that uprooted themselves to walk. But Buyan's real magic lay in its defiance of cartography. One day it might appear as a rocky outcrop near Rugen. The next, fishermen would swear they'd glimpsed its forests further east, off the Curonian Spit. This wasn't just fantasy, it was a poetic response to the Baltic's mercurial coasts, where sandbars migrate and islands erode overnight. The myth's roots may hide in plain sight. Near the Polish village of Nowa Karczma, archaeologists have uncovered remnants of a medieval Slavic cult site, its artifacts strewn across what was once an island in a now vanished lake. Among the finds were amulets carved with symbols matching descriptions of Chernobyl seals, along with ritual boats seemingly designed for ceremonies invoking water spirits. Even more intriguing are the local legends speaking of a drowning grove, a sacred copse that allegedly sank beneath the waves during a great storm, taking its priests with it. Could Buyon's shape-shifting lore be a cultural memory of such lost places, their disappearance explained as sorcery rather than erosion? Baltic folklore adds another layer. The Curonians, a seafaring tribe, spoke of Juro's Jim, Earth of the Sea, an island that appeared to doomed sailors as a phantom refuge only to drag them under. Estonian tales describe Kirnu, a vanishing land where witches gathered under the moon. These parallels suggest Buyon wasn't just a Slavic oddity but part of a broader regional awareness of the sea's treachery. Modern hydrography supports this. The Baltic southern basin is a graveyard of drowned settlements, their timbers preserved in the brackish water. A 12th century chronicle even mentions a floating temple near Arkona, where pagan priests allegedly rode tidal surges to simulate flight. Chernobyl's role in the myth reveals deeper truths. Unlike Western wizards cloistered in towers, he embodied the volatile spirit of the sea itself, capricious but not evil. Farmers left offerings of honey cakes on shorelines to appease him, a practice echoing pre-Christian veneration of Vodyanoi, the water demon. This duality, destroyer and sustainer, mirrors the Baltic's own nature, its storms deadly but its fisheries life-giving. Even Buyon's golden pillars find a possible prototype in the amber-rich cliffs of Samland, where fossilized resin washed ashore like celestial currency. Today, satellite imaging reveals a haunting possibility. Sonar scans of the Baltic floor show strange, circular formations off Poland's coast, sunken crags resembling Slavic ritual platforms. Divers have reported feeling sudden currents in these spots, as if the water itself remembers old boundaries. Whether Buyon was a real island lost to rising seas, a metaphor for nature's impermanence, or a warning to sailors about shifting sands, its legacy lingers. The next time fog swallows the horizon, watch closely. You might just glimpse Chernobyl's beard in the mist, or hear the whisper of an island that wasn't there yesterday. On early European maps of North America, nestled between curling waves and sketched forests, a name appears like a whisper from another time: Norumbega. This phantom city, described as a Viking metropolis of towering spires and bustling trade, was plotted confidently by 16th century cartographers along the coast of what's now Maine. Some maps even depicted it with turrets and bridges, a Norse utopia hidden in the New World's uncharted vastness. But when explorers like Samuel de Champlain paddled up the Penobscot River in 1604, expecting gilded streets, they found only dense forests and bewildered Wabanaki hunters. The question lingers: was Norumbega pure fantasy, a misheard indigenous place name, or the ghost of something real, a fleeting Viking foothold lost to time? The legend's seeds might lie in the Norse sagas themselves. Leif Erikson's voyages to Vinland around the year 1000 describe a land of wild grapes and makeshift settlements, with ruins like those at Elant's Ox Meadows in Newfoundland proving Vikings did briefly tread these shores. The sagas mention encounters with indigenous people they called Skraelings, and fleeting references to trading posts or winter camps that could have stretched further south. Could Norumbega be a garbled memory of these expeditions, passed down through generations of European fishermen and mapmakers? The Wabanaki people's own oral histories tell of stone houses and pale-haired visitors, though these accounts were often filtered through colonial interpreters with agendas. Then there's the peculiar case of the Newport Tower in Rhode Island. This mysterious round stone structure, long touted as proof of Vikings in New England, was likely built by 17th century colonists, yet its resemblance to Norse architecture fueled Norumbega speculation for centuries. Similarly, the infamous Kensington runestone, discovered in Minnesota in 1898, claimed to record a 14th century Viking expedition, but linguists quickly exposed it as a hoax. These red herrings reveal less about history than about the desperate desire to stitch Europe's myths onto America's soil, to fill the silence of the pre-Columbian past with familiar narratives. Modern archaeology offers quieter but more credible clues. At a site called Goddard Point in Maine, a Norse penny minted between 1065 and 1080 was unearthed amid indigenous artifacts suggesting trade or plunder could have connected these worlds. Even more compelling are the strange carvings found on Maine's coastline, rune-like symbols etched into boulders, though whether they're Viking graffiti, indigenous petroglyphs, or colonial doodles remains hotly debated. The truth might lie somewhere between. If Vikings did venture south from Newfoundland, their presence would have been fleeting, their structures wooden and temporary, leaving little trace beyond whispers in Wabanaki stories and the stubborn ink on old maps. Norimbiga's legacy today is a palimpsest of hope and hoax. In the 1880s, a Massachusetts inventor named Eben Norton Horsford became obsessed with proving Norimbiga was a Viking capital near Boston, even erecting a now crumbling memorial tower to honor his fabricated discovery. Meanwhile, the name clings to modern geography. A neighborhood in Newton, Massachusetts, a stretch of Maine's Penobscot River, echoes of a city that never was, or perhaps one we've yet to truly find. The real Norimbiga might not be a place at all, but a metaphor for how legends outlast facts, how the hunger for discovery can carve cities from mist, and how the past always holds just enough mystery to keep us searching. In the misty hills and along the craggy coasts of Ireland, storytellers have whispered of Tir na an Og for centuries, a realm where time holds no power, where apple trees bloom silver and gold, and the ocean itself shimmers like liquid glass. Unlike the Atlantis myth of a lost civilization or Shangri-La's Himalayan seclusion, this Celtic otherworld wasn't a place one could stumble upon by chance. It demanded invitation, often arriving in the form of a ferrywoman riding a white horse, offering mortal heroes a choice: stay in the land of aging and strife or cross the waves to eternal youth. The most famous tale follows Oisin, a warrior poet lured to Tir na an Og by the radiant Niamh. For what felt like 3 blissful years, he feasted and roamed its endless meadows only to return to Ireland centuries later, crumbling to dust the moment his feet touched mortal soil. This wasn't just a fanciful escape. Tir na an Og embodied the Celtic worldview of cyclical time, where life and death weren't in points but phases in an endless spiral. Compare it to Anon, the Welsh otherworld ruled by the enigmatic Aron, a land less about eternal youth than balance, where heroes like Will traded places with its king to learn the art of reciprocity. While Tir na an Og shimmered with perpetual summer, Anon often appeared as a shadowy reflection of our world, its forests teeming with spectral hounds and its feasts served on plates that could never fill mortal hunger. These weren't just different flavors of paradise, they reflected regional values. Ireland's myths reveled in poetic idealism, while Wales' tales leaned into the solemnity of moral exchange. Modern fantasy owes a debt to these ancient blueprints. The undying lands in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, where elves sail west to escape decay, echo Tir na an Og's timeless allure. Even Harry Potter's Deathly Hallows, a realm accessible only to those who greet death as an old friend, draws from Anon's liminality. But contemporary retellings often miss the irony woven into the old tales. Oisin's tragedy wasn't just about lost time. It was a warning that immortality could divorce you from everything that makes life meaningful: the changing seasons, the bonds that fray and renew, the very friction that gives existence texture. Archaeology adds a haunting layer. At the Brú na Bóinne complex in Ireland, tombs like Newgrange align with the winter solstice, flooding their chambers with sunlight for 17 fleeting minutes, a literal marriage of light and darkness, time suspended in stone. Nearby, the sheer mounds fairy forts dotting the landscape were likely repurposed Neolithic burial sites, their original functions forgotten but their mysticism intact. This blurring of burial ground and paradise hints that Ter-Na-En-Og might have roots in ancestral memory, a cultural coping mechanism for mortality, the most poignant twist. These myths persist where you'd least expect. In Irish nursing homes today, storytellers still recount Oisin's return, his shock at finding his friends long dead, his grief as youth abandons him all at once. The tale isn't told as escapism but as solace, a reminder that time's passage is what makes love precious, that endings give shape to joy. Ter-Na-En-Og endures not because it offers a way out, but because it teaches us to cherish the world we have, even as we dream of ones we don't. Fusang emerges from the shadows of ancient Chinese texts as one of history's most tantalizing geographic riddles. In the year 499, a wandering Buddhist monk named Hui Shen returned to the imperial court with an astonishing tale: a land 20,000 li to the east beyond the Great Eastern Sea, where towering trees bore fibrous bark woven into cloth and horses were unknown. His account, recorded in the Book of Liang, described a place of strange customs and golden mountains, its people living in harmony with nature. For centuries, scholars have wrestled with the question: was Fusang a garbled description of the Americas, a misplaced account of Japan, or simply the fabrications of a monk seeking favor? The case for Fusang as the Americas hinges on eerie details that align with pre-Columbian cultures. Hui Shen's mention of bark cloth clothing mirrors the amate paper garments crafted by Mesoamerican civilizations like the Maya, while his description of a beverage made from fruit sap could point to the fermented agave drinks of Mexico. Even the distance 20,000 li, roughly 6,000 miles plotted from China's coast, would land somewhere between British Columbia and Central America, depending on the route. 19th century translators latched onto these parallels, with some arguing that Fusang was Mexico's Michoacan region, where the Purépecha people mined copper and gold. Yet skeptics counter with equally compelling objections. Japanese cedar forests match the towering trees described by Hui Shen, and the absence of horses in his account fits Japan's pre-Mongolian era. The monk's timeline is also suspiciously convenient. His alleged voyage occurred just as Buddhism was gaining traction in China, making a fantastical tale a useful tool for impressing patrons. Even the name Fusang itself might hold a clue. In Chinese mythology, it refers to a cosmic mulberry tree where the sun rested, suggesting the account could be allegory rather than geography. Modern archaeology adds fuel to the debate. In British Columbia, indigenous oral histories speak of iron people arriving from the sea long before Europeans, while discoveries of ancient Chinese coinage along the Pacific Northwest coast, though often disputed, hint at fleeting pre-Columbian contact. Meanwhile, linguistic oddities persist. The word Fusang sounds uncannily like Huaxin, a term some Mesoamerican cultures used for strangers from the West. Whether these fragments form a coherent picture or coincidental noise depends on who's assembling the puzzle. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between. Hui Shen's account might stitch together travelers' tales from multiple sources: Inuit kayaks mistaken for bark boats, Aleutian Islanders' sewn gut garments reinterpreted as woven cloth. Or maybe Fusang was never meant to be a real place at all, but a Buddhist parable about the illusory nature of distance and desire. As with all great geographic mysteries, the power of Fusang isn't just in solving it, but in the journey of the search itself, a reminder that even the oldest maps leave room for wonder. Deep beneath the still waters of Lake Svetloyar in Russia's Nizhny Novgorod region, bells are said to toll on quiet nights, a ghostly echo from the drowned city of Kaitush, a place so pure it was swallowed by the earth rather than surrender to violence. The legend begins in the 13th century as Mongol hordes under Batu Khan swept across Rus, burning cities to the ground. As the invaders approached Kaitush, its pious citizens prayed for deliverance. According to Orthodox chronicles, God answered by shrouding the city in a thick mist, letting it sink intact into the lake's depths where it would remain invisible to the enemy's eyes. To this day, locals claim that on clear mornings, the golden domes of Kytosh churches can be glimpsed shimmering beneath the surface, visible only to those pure of heart. What makes Kytosh unique among sunken cities is its dual identity, both a historical refuge and a spiritual beacon. Unlike Atlantis's hubris or Lyonesse's tragedy, Kytosh's submersion was framed as divine protection, a testament to the faith of its people. Medieval Russian duhovnyi spiritual verses describe it as an invisible city, accessible only through prayer and pilgrimage. Old believers, a strict Orthodox sect, still gather at Lake Svetloyar to circle its shores barefoot, chanting hymns they believe might summon Kytosh back to the world of the living. The lake itself is treated as holy water. Pilgrims fill bottles to take home, convinced of its healing powers. Divers and scientists haven't been immune to the legend's pull. In the 1950s, Soviet expeditions using early sonar equipment detected anomalous structures on the lakebed, rectangular shapes resembling foundations, though skeptics argued these could be glacial debris. More recently, in 2012, a team from the Russian Geographical Society deployed underwater drones, capturing footage of what appeared to be man-made wooden fragments at depths exceeding 100 feet. Carbon dating placed the wood in the 12th or 13th century, aligning eerily with the Mongol invasion timeline. But the real enigma lies in the lake's geology. Despite its modest size, Svetloyar is astonishingly deep, over 130 feet in places, with a funnel-like shape that suggests a violent collapse, perhaps a sinkhole triggered by ancient seismic activity. Could this explain the city's sudden disappearance? Kytosh's cultural legacy transcends archaeology. In World War II, Soviet soldiers carried copies of Rimsky-Korsakov's opera, The Legend of the Invisible City of Kytosh, as a talisman. Its story of a land that refuses to die resonating with their struggle against invaders. Modern artists and writers reimagine Kytosh as a symbol of resistance, whether against political oppression or environmental ruin. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists weave it into tales of hidden, Hyperborean ancestors or underground Orthodox monasteries preserving lost knowledge. The power of Kytosh lies in its refusal to be pinned down. Is it a sunken city, a metaphor for faith's invincibility, or a mirror for whatever solace a generation needs? The lake keeps its secrets, but the bells still ring, sometimes real, sometimes the wind reminding us that some legends refuse to stay silent beneath the waves. Bermuda's disappearance from the map is one of geography's most bizarre whodunits, an island that simply stopped existing. For over 200 years, this speck of land appeared consistently on Spanish and Mexican nautical charts, nestled in the Gulf of Mexico about 100 miles north of the Yucatan Peninsula. Sailors relied on its coordinates, and governments treated it as sovereign territory. Then, in the 20th century, when modern cartographers went to verify its existence, they found nothing but empty ocean. The Vanishing Act sparked a firestorm of theories, from bureaucratic blunders to shadowy geopolitical schemes. How does an entire island vanish without a trace? The answer might rewrite history or expose a cover-up. The most chilling theory suggests Bermuda was deliberately erased to manipulate oil rights. In the 1990s, as Mexico and the United States negotiated maritime boundaries in the Gulf, a line that would determine who could drill where Bermuda's coordinates suddenly mattered. If the island still existed, it would have pushed Mexico's economic zone further north, granting it access to the Hoyo de Dona, an oil-rich basin. But surveys in 1997 and 2009 found no sign of the island, not even underwater ruins. Conspiracy theorists pounced. Had the CIA or oil companies sabotaged Bermuda? Some pointed to declassified documents mentioning U.S. interest in geopolitical adjustments, while others noted that dynamite or dredging could theoretically erase a low-lying island. Even Mexico's Congress launched an investigation, though it concluded the island likely never existed. Yet the cartographic error explanation has its own wrinkles. 16th century Spanish logs described Bermuda as a navigational marker, and meticulous 18th century maps like Diego Panito's chart plotted it with precise coordinates. Skeptics argue that early sailors might have mistaken drifting seaweed mats or mirages for land, a common issue in an era when phantom islands peppered maps. But Bermuda appeared too consistently across too many independent sources to dismiss entirely. Modern sonar scans of the seafloor add another twist. While no island remnants were found, the area does feature underwater mesas that could have once breached the surface, only to be submerged by rising seas or seismic shifts. The mystery deepens when you consider who stood to gain. The 1997 survey, conducted by a Mexican research vessel, curiously avoided the exact coordinates where Bermuda was historically marked. Critics call this a red flag, suggesting the search was rigged from the start. Meanwhile, U.S. oil companies secured drilling rights in the disputed zone shortly after the island's non-existence was confirmed. Coincidence or calculated exploitation of a cartographic ghost? Even stranger, some 19th century maps show Bermuda twice with conflicting coordinates, hinting at a clerical error that snowballed across generations of copyists. Today, Bermuda lives on as a cautionary tale about how maps and history are shaped by power. Satellite technology has since debunked countless phantom islands, but none with stakes this high. Whether swallowed by conspiracy or the sea, the island's legacy lingers in the unresolved tensions between truth and territory. Every time a drill bit pierces the Gulf's floor, it whispers the question, did we lose Bermuda to nature's whims or to human greed? The ocean, as always, keeps its secrets. Reykjanescogi, the rugged peninsula stretching southwest from Iceland's capital, smolders with contradictions, a place where fire and water wage an endless battle, and where the line between Viking sagas and volcanic reality blurs into steam. The medieval Landnámabók describes this region as the realm of fire giants, their breath rising from fissures in the earth, their rage shaping the land itself. Today, geologists confirm what the Skalds sensed. Reykjanescogi sits atop the mid-Atlantic ridge, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates grind apart, unleashing geysers, lava fields, and the otherworldly hues of the Blue Lagoon. But what's fascinating isn't just the science, it's how closely the myths anticipated it. Take the story of Surtur, the primordial giant said to wield a flaming sword, waiting beneath Reykjanescogi to unleash Ragnarök. To the Norse, his presence explained the peninsula's smoking vents and trembling ground. Modern volcanology offers a less apocalyptic but equally dramatic truth. The peninsula's Krýsuvík fissure zone, where boiling mud pots hiss like a dragon's exhale and sulfur crystals coat the earth in unnatural yellows. Even the name Reykjanescogi, Smoking Cape, betrays how deeply the land's volatility shaped local identity. Yet nowhere is this duality more palpable than at the Blue Lagoon, a turquoise pool of geothermal runoff that looks like something from a wizard's dream. The sagas spoke of hidden hot springs where wounded heroes regained their strength, their waters blessed by the gods. Today, swimmers float in silica-rich brine, their skins smeared with the lagoon's signature white mud, while steam rises against a backdrop of jagged lava fields. The lagoon's origin is anything but mythical. It formed in 1976 from excess water diverted from a nearby power plant, an accidental oasis that turned into Iceland's most iconic attraction. The real magic lies in how these forces, mythic and modern, feed each other. At Gunnuva, a geothermal area named after a vengeful ghost said to have been trapped there by a cunning priest, visitors tread wooden walkways over roaring fumaroles. Scientists measure the ground's minute shifts, predicting eruptions, while locals still leave small offerings at the site's edges, a nod to older instincts. Even the recent Fagradalsfjall eruptions, which lit up the peninsula's night sky in 2021, felt like a saga come to life. Lava fountains painting the clouds red, drawing crowds as awestruck as any medieval farmer witnessing Surtur's supposed awakening. What Reykjaneskogi teaches us isn't just about geology or folklore, but about the human need to narrate the inexplicable. The Vikings didn't have seismographs, but they had Surtur. We have satellite monitoring, yet still speak of the Earth's anger when volcanoes erupt. The peninsula's steam still rises, whether you call it a giant's breath or a tectonic sigh, proof that some landscapes resist explanation, demanding instead to be felt, feared, and revered. Mayda lingers on medieval maps like a crescent-shaped question mark, an island that shouldn't be there, yet appeared with stubborn consistency for centuries. Portuguese and Spanish cartographers sketched its distinctive curved outline west of Brittany, or sometimes near the Azores, labeling it Insula de Mayda or La Man Satanaxio, a name that ominously translates to the Hand of Satan. Its crescent form, resembling a tilted smile or a fanged bite taken from the sea, made it instantly recognizable amidst the sea monsters and compass roses of old charts. Yet by the 1800s, Mayda had vanished from maps as abruptly as it appeared, leaving behind only whispers and theories. Was it a mischarted fragment of the Azores, a phantom born from optical illusions, or something even stranger? The Azores theory holds weight. Early sailors navigating by stars and dead reckoning often misjudged distances, especially in the foggy North Atlantic. A fleeting glimpse of São Miguel or Terceira, perhaps obscured by mist, could have been misrecorded as a new land, with later cartographers copying the error without verification. The crescent shape might even mirror the curve of São Miguel's twin volcanic calderas, seen from an unusual angle. Yet there's a hiccup. Mayda's coordinates often placed it far northwest of the Azores, closer to where the mythical island of Hy-Brasil was said to lurk. This overlap raises the tantalizing possibility that Mayda wasn't just a navigational blunder, but a deliberate fabrication, a cartographic trap island. Mapmakers in the age of exploration sometimes included fake landmarks to catch plagiarists. If a rival copied their charts verbatim, the presence of a non-existent island would expose the theft. The famous Vinland map, for instance, is littered with debated features that could serve this purpose. Mayda's whimsical crescent shape, so unlike natural landforms, makes it a prime candidate for such a ruse. But why would it persist for so long? The answer lies in the fragile chain of trust between explorers and mapmakers. Once a prominent cartographer like Mercator or Ortelius included Mayda, others followed suit, reluctant to question authority. Yet nature might offer the most poetic explanation. The North Atlantic is a graveyard of volcanic islands that rose and fell within human memory. Iceland's Surtsey emerged from the waves in 1963, while the Azores' own Cape Lindhos erupted as recently as 1957. Could Mayda have been a real but short-lived volcanic mound, its fragile tephra cliffs eroded by storms within decades of its discovery? Sailors in the 1500s might have witnessed its birth and death without realizing the ephemeral spectacle they'd recorded. Modern technology has sharpened the search. Sonar scans of the Atlantic floor near Mayda's charted locations reveal nothing, no seamounts, no submerged calderas. Yet the mystery endures in the digital age. Online forums buzz with theories tying Mayda to Atlantis or UFOs, while sober historians sift through shipping logs for overlooked clues. Perhaps Mayda's true legacy isn't as a lost island, but as a testament to the ocean's power to conjure mirages both on the horizon and in our imaginations. Like a reflection on the waves, it shimmers just long enough to make us wonder, then dissolves, leaving us staring at the depths, questioning what's really there. At the heart of Athens' founding myths lies the enigmatic figure of Eratosthenes, a king born from the earth itself, his legs coiled like serpents, his very existence straddling the line between human and divine. Unlike the muscular heroes of Olympian tales, Eratosthenes embodied something older, stranger, rooted in the chthonic mysteries that predated classical Greece. According to legend, the blacksmith god Hephaestus once pursued the goddess Athena, his desire spilling onto the soil of the Acropolis. From that fertile earth sprang Eratosthenes, a child half mortal, half elemental, raised in secret by Athena herself. His kingdom wasn't just a political entity, it was a living bridge between the realms of gods, monsters, and mortals. What chills the spine isn't the fantastical birth, but the eerie physical remnants tying this myth to real Athenian rituals. On the slopes of the Acropolis, archaeologists uncovered a sacred precinct filled with snake-shaped votive offerings, tiny bronze serpents coiled around stones, their scales still gleaming after millennia. Ancient texts describe an annual festival where Athenian girls, chosen as a Hyperborea, carried baskets containing a hidden serpent to a temple, reenacting the moment Athena entrusted the infant Eratosthenes to the city's first daughters. These weren't mere theatrical performances, they were acts of communion with a being whose hybrid forms symbolized the raw, untamed power of the land itself. The serpentine motif hints at deeper pre-Hellenic roots. Before Athena became the polished goddess of wisdom, she may have been worshipped as a guardian of snakes, a deity linked to the regenerative power of the earth. Some scholars point to Minoan artifacts from Crete, where goddesses clutch serpents like scepters, their skirts flaring into scales. Others trace Eratosthenes' lineage to Anatolia, where Hittite myths speak of Ilyanka, a serpentine chaos monster battled by storm gods. Could Eratosthenes' half-serpent form be a cultural echo, a memory of Mycenaean-era interactions between Greek settlers and Anatolian traders? The artifacts don't lie. Snake cults flourished across the Bronze Age Aegean, their symbolism woven into pottery, frescoes, and even the labyrinthine corridors of palaces. Yet the most provocative theory reimagines Eratosthenes' land as a metaphor for Athens' own fractured identity. The myth emphasizes his concealment, hidden in a basket, raised in darkness, mirroring the city's early struggles to unify its disparate villages. His serpent legs, often interpreted as monstrous, might instead represent the subterranean rivers of Attica, their winding courses vital for survival in the arid landscape. Even the name Eratosthenes defies easy translation. Some linguists break it down to Eris strife and Chthon earth, suggesting a deity born from the land's turbulent essence. Modern excavations keep blurring the lines between legend and archaeology. In the Kerameikos district, a Mycenaean-era tomb yielded a skeleton with unusually twisted legs, buried alongside serpentine jewelry, fueling speculation about a real figure who inspired the myth. Meanwhile, genetic studies of ancient Athenians reveal surprising Anatolian ancestry, lending credence to theories of cultural exchange. Whether as a symbol of autochthony, a relic of forgotten cults, or a political tool to legitimize Athenian supremacy, Eratosthenes' legacy slithers through history, refusing to be pinned down. His land wasn't just a kingdom, it was a living paradox, a place where the earth itself could birth kings, and serpents whispered secrets to those willing to listen. From sunken cities to floating paradises, these 30 legendary lands reveal a truth more fascinating than any single myth: humanity's relentless drive to fill the unknown with stories. Whether inspired by geological disasters, political upheavals, or pure imagination, these tales share a common thread. They reflect our deepest fears, hopes, and unanswered questions. Atlantis warns of hubris, Shambhala offers spiritual refuge, El Dorado lures with greed, and Quivira exposes the cost of cultural blindness. Each legend, no matter how outlandish, springs from something real: a volcanic eruption, a drowned coastline, a king's lost treasure, twisted by time into something grander. Think about the power of these stories. They've launched expeditions, toppled empires, and even shaped modern borders. The Nazis' obsession with Hyperborea distorted archaeology, while Coronado's hunt for golden cities altered the course of American history. Yet beyond their impact, these myths endure because they speak to something universal: the ache for discovery, the terror of oblivion, the longing to believe there's more to the world than what we see. Every phantom island on an old map, every whispered tale of a hidden valley, is a rebellion against the idea that we've mapped every corner of existence. So which legends feel most plausible to you? Could Doggerland's submerged plains have inspired Lyonesse? Might the Amazon's sprawling earthworks be remnants of Paititi? Or is the truth even stranger, that these stories are less about places than about us, our need to explain the unexplainable? The line between myth and history isn't as solid as we think. After all, Troy was once considered pure fiction until Schliemann's shovel struck its walls. Before you go, tell us in the comments which mythical land captivates you most and why. Have you heard local legends where you live that deserve their own spotlight? And if you love unraveling history's greatest enigmas, don't forget to subscribe. Who knows, the next video might just explore the legend you've been waiting for. Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, sometimes the most incredible stories aren't the ones we invent, but the truths we haven't uncovered yet.